If we love our brothers and sisters, our police officers, we need our police officers highly prepared, but even more than that, highly selected. We need to select our police officers that embody what it takes to be a police officer in New York City. This is an animal like no other. We need our police officers highly trained. And now, one thing I briefly touched on, and I didn't get a chance to go deep into it, talk on Sal's show, is paid detail. Now, I'm not condemning anyone from doing paid detail. I understand for some, that is a great avenue to subsidize your income. But I never did paid detail. I'm not scared of anything. But I didn't like the idea of being put in a position where I'm going to work as a uniformed officer, have limited backup other than your radio, don't understand the apparatus of the location you're working, exits, who is your point of contact there as far as security? Is anyone there have any police training? And God forbid something does go down. Where do you egress? What does the perimeter look like? What precinct are you working in? I'm sure there are many cops that don't even know what precinct they're assigned to when they're working a paid detail. And you know what? There is no training in the police department of how you should conduct yourself and how do you prepare yourself at a paid detail. John, what are your thoughts on that? I always found that extremely problematic, especially you working at a bank or one of these locations by yourself.
I got a big problem with paid detail. Here's my problem with paid detail. One, the job sucks. The NYPD. The NYPD is horrific at sending intel down to its patrol force. Here's the current Deputy Commissioner of Counterintelligence. Greg Kelly puts this out. This is Rebecca Weiner, NYPD Deputy Commissioner for Counterterrorism. When she got the big job in 2023, she told the New York Times her top priority would be fighting right-wing extremists and the white supremacist movement that advocates for overthrowing the government. What she really meant was her top job was going to be to keep Eric Adams elected and to go after retired cops who are on podcasts and on social media criticizing him. Isn't that the truth, Rebecca? He should know every threat to that building, every threat to every organization in that building. Not only should he in a paid detail, but that entire command and the surrounding commands. Like, the intelligence is lacking in the NYPD. It's been lacking for years. Paid detail, and you get assigned to this building. NFL's in there. Blackstone, all these other companies are in there. What do you know? You know how much you're getting paid for the hour. Do you get an intel report when you show up to paid detail? Do you get a report that said, hey, the NFL got threatened. Roger Goodell got threatened 20 times this month, and he got threatened by these people, and these are possibly suspects that have threatened to kill Roger Goodell or blow up the building or anything else. No, I'm sure you don't. As a matter of fact, I'm sure that if you were patrolling that precinct that day, you would not know any of that either. None of that information would make its way down to you. It would just be some fancy guy in intel with a pinky ring, and we do absolutely nothing with that information. We don't divulge it down. We don't warn our own cops. And then you're in there completely unprepared. Totally unprepared. You have no idea what's happening. Oh, it's a great day in Manhattan. Oh, look at all the people. Oh, yeah, look at that guy. He's got an M4 or AR-15 walking on the block. Yeah. Oh, nice. Anyway. See those guys on the Finest Unfiltered? No. You're a police officer. You're in uniform. We're trained for a reason to be very afraid everywhere we are, because the fact is, wherever you are, if somebody's looking to do harm, rob a store, kill somebody, if they're wanted for a crime, guess who they're going to kill first? You. Why do you think they give you a gun? Why do you think they give you a bulletproof vest? You think it's because people love you? No. You're there to eliminate threats. You're there to protect and preserve life. You're definitely not there to have your back to the front door of anyone. Now, could you be distracted? Absolutely. Could somebody come in and distract you? Could there be third parties that distract you? Absolutely, that could be. Could what happened to P.O. Islam happen to absolutely anybody? Absolutely. But what do you need to do as a police officer? You need to eliminate every single possibility of that throughout your entire day, especially while you're sitting there in that stupid uniform and you're the only person that everybody's going to either look to for help or go towards to harm. You have to understand the gravity of the job that you're in. You have to understand that. You know, I'm sorry to bring it up. You don't sit in your patrol car and eat meal in a busy intersection. You don't do it. You don't do it. Matter of fact, you don't sit out in public with your back to the door in a pizzeria and sit there and eat your pizza. Oh, I'm just on meal. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. That's how you get assassinated. That's how you get murdered.
Well, that's absolutely right. You know, I learned early on in the Marine Corps, even before I entered the NYPD, when you're on a solo post, you always have to position yourself where no one could surprise you from behind. You always have to put yourself. I learned that early on when I was in Iraq, standing a post in the middle of the desert, where I had to find a position where I could see all potential threats and that no one could ever sneak upon me. And that goes even further in the police department. When you're working in uniform, think about this. Why was Officer Islam fired upon when this, to the knowledge that we have so far, all that we have so far is that this prime suspect, perpetrator, intended to go to the NFL. But who did he shoot on sight? He shot a fellow brother police officer because you are a target wearing that uniform. So this ideology that I'm off duty and I'm just working paid detail and I'm not in the same capacity as a police officer working in a precinct, we have to remove that ideology. Let's talk about all the great things that happens when you work paid detail, John. When you arrive at a location, TD Bank, Chase Bank, one of these banks that police officers do security in uniform, they get a full map of what the place looks like, right? Don't they get a full map of what the place looks like, where the exits and entrances are? They get a full map describing past incidents, right? Don't they get that at paid detail? Not. They get zero. They get nothing. That's what I was talking about yesterday on Sal's show, which I would like to dive and further expand this conversation. That when a police officer responds to a location to work paid detail, which means that police officer is doing security at a location. And understand, I've said this numerous times, John, you're probably tired of hearing it. I said this for 3 years, and I've been saying this for years. What's the difference between a police officer and a security guard? A security guard wears a shield, observes, reports, repeats. A police officer wears a shield, and that shield gives you the right to do intrusive police work, and you're a target. So you have to understand, for most of these corporate locations, you're just a security guard for that day. But for you, working the paid detail, you are a target that day. You're a police officer in a complete different capacity, and you have to understand that. There's absolutely no training. There is no plan of how you respond. If you ask most cops, and I've never seen it by the inspections, another failure by the NYPD, not just this administration, the NYPD in its entirety. I've never seen inspections respond to these paid detail locations other than just scratch their books, and now it's on the computer, just to say they made an observation, make sure this police officer is working. But I've never seen anyone say, hey, where are you working today? Do you know what precinct you're in? Do you know the confines? Do you know the recent incidents that have happened around here? Are you working at this bank because this bank was previously robbed? Do you have a picture of potential threats to this bank? Did you make contact with anyone important at this bank who could tell you where the exits and entrances are, and what are the soft targets at this location? I guarantee none of these conversations are discussed, which are imperative to a police officer working in paid detail. But again, that's why I never did paid detail. What I find important to do intrusive police work as a police officer is a missing link at these paid detail locations. And you are a target. If this doesn't put emphasis on it, that this perpetrator shot a police officer who had nothing to do with his intentions, because that police officer he saw as an obstacle in getting to his location to carry out his crime. You have to be mindful And that's why I'm not telling police officers not to do the paid detail. But if you are assigned to a paid detail, you have to know what precinct you're assigned to, what are the soft targets. You have to be aware, especially in New York City. This is a soft target, especially right now with low manpower in the police department, weak leadership, a police department that has police officers that have passed with lower standards, that don't embody the same spirit. You've lost, and this is the other problem, with COVID and an overzealous CCRB and media attacks, just like on Sal Greco, we've lost veteran police officers. And it's not, we haven't replaced oranges with oranges. We're replacing oranges with apples. We're not getting police officers that have the same training, and we're not getting police officers that are mentored by qualified veterans. City. And it's a major problem. And some of these comments I'm seeing in the chat are fantastic. Michael M. says, Eric, many of the elevators in corporate buildings are destination dispatched. Your access card is either needed inside of the car to get to your floor, or when you swipe at turnstiles, you are directed to the floor. You are assigned to an access card. That's a great point. That's a major problem. A police officer assigned to a building doing the paid detail, working, securing that location, and doesn't have access to specific locations. I would say in the majority of the cases, if not all, the police officer doesn't even know if they have access in or out of that building, which is why I said, what are the exits? What are the entrances? Where are the soft targets? Where are the soft locations? This is vital information to a police officer to do their job. And if you're working paid detail and you get to these locations and you're not thinking about these things, well, you're really not in the mindset of a police officer. We say, what is it to be a cop? That's the mindset you have to have. What are exits? What are the entrances? What are soft targets? What if there is a potential for a threat?
You've just watched a clip from our live episode. Click the description to watch the full episode. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this.